Good morning. It is February the 4th, 2025, and straight from the highly caffeinated studio, this is According to Willie B., and I, Will Bryce, am your host for the next half hour. So today's trip, we are going to go to Jamaica. But before we dive off, no pun intended, into Jamaica, I want to give you a merchandise update, and I'm really hoping that I have some pictures to upload on our social media of our t-shirt designs within the next couple of weeks so that we can open that store on March 1st, target date. Before we get started, of course, we need to do our business highlight of the week. Now, this week's business highlight comes from the great big Lone Star State of Texas, from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area at that. And the name of that business is Compass Mechanical. Here's the thing. Let me just back up for a second. So Compass Mechanical is an HVAC company that does light commercial HVAC work. Now, they service the area of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That area, if you're not familiar, is big enough to be a state in all its own right. So to cover that big of an area, it's just, it's impressive. So they do any kind of, it doesn't matter what kind of equipment it is. They do Aeon, they do Dakin, there's no kind of specialty equipment that they're scared of. They know how to work on all of it. And they've got some big customers like DSW Shoes. They've got Big Lots, the Hilton Marriott Group. I mean, wow, that's some serious high profile customers. So they definitely know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time. And I just implore you to check them out. And if you have some commercial HVAC work in that area, anywhere in that area, I'm quite sure they will take care of you. You can call Danny Barentine at 817-676-1040. They are family owned and operated. And when you call him, you tell him that I sent you. All right, let's dive off, no pun intended, to our episode on Jamaica. So, of course, in no particular order, I'm going to cover the food first. Now, I don't necessarily eat at restaurants in Jamaica per se. I usually eat at restaurants that are on the resort property where I stay. And I have been to Jamaica now, if my memory serves me correctly, 22 times. So I'm not saying I'm a Jamaican expert. I just like to go because I learn something new every time. But for me, the favorite foods that I have from Jamaica are without a doubt, hands down, jerk chicken. Just absolutely love jerk chicken. And it's just, it's not the same here in the States as it is over there. And I've been told this because some of the ingredients are not the same here as they are on the island. And that's the story I'm going with. They also have a food called meat pie. It basically is a ground meat concoction that's very spicy, and it's in a pastry somewhat similar to a turnover, but a lot more flaky. And you can dip that thing in the jerk sauce, and man, it's just heaven on a plate. They have fruit, fresh fruit on the island, mangoes, papayas, pineapples. I mean, you name it. And you can get that fresh fruit every single day on the resort. And that's one of my favorite things because I could just almost live on the fruit every day. Then there's the dessert bar. The sit-down restaurants have their own handmade desserts. And there's usually a pretty good selection of those on the menu every day. And the menu does rotate. But it's very impressive with their plating presentation, not only on their desserts, but also on their meals. You have everything from sit-down restaurants to the buffet to a beach grill shack, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll get into more of that when I start talking about the difference in the resorts. The other food that I really like in Jamaica, and hopefully I don't lose any friends over this one, but I prefer Jamaican lobster over Maine lobster. Now, it doesn't mean that if you want to buy me a lobster, that I'm not going to eat it. It just means that Jamaican lobster seems to be my favorite. To me, it's sweeter, more tender, and I know I'm probably upsetting the apple cart on that one, but that's just my opinion. But their from what I hear, their crop of lobster has not been very prolific in the last couple of years. I've not really kind of studied why that is. It's just what I've been told the last few trips. So, flying into Jamaica, where are you going? Well, you're 99% of you're probably going to fly into Montego Bay, which is kind of in we'll call it the middle of the island. And you go one direction and you'll go to Negril, and you go the other direction and you'll go to Ocho Rios. Both have a cruise ship port, and both have a lot of big mega hotel resorts, etc. And as does Montego Bay. It's an extremely large cruise port. Cruise ships coming in there almost on a daily basis. And they have some resorts and stuff there as well. But most people choose to take the little hour and a half, hour and 45-minute bus ride to go out to either Negril or Ocho Rios. I absolutely prefer Ocho Rios, and that's just my preference. It's not because one's better than the other. I just really like the area of Ocho Rios better. But an hour and 40 bus ride or van ride, it's not bad at all. Even if you have been traveling most of the time since like 3 or 4 a.m. that morning, right? The only way the ride will take longer than that is if it's a Saturday, sometimes late in the afternoon, or a Friday late afternoon. You could run into some traffic going through some of the small towns because, you literally have very small streets going through. So it could get kind of congested and cause you an extra 10, 15 minutes. But, at the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. So another reason that people tell me they don't like to go to Jamaica is because of the crime. Well, here's my take on that. So there are places in the U.S. that I wouldn't want to go in the daylight, much less the dark, because I don't feel safe there. There's another place, if you look at Cozumel or Cancun or some of those areas, they've been in the news quite a bit lately. I'm not afraid to go there. I do give myself a little bit of caution and just prefer not to put myself in that situation. I've never felt unsafe in Jamaica. Now, that could change tomorrow, but that's always been my experience. Like I always tell you, my grandma said, keep your wits about you, and you'll be fine. So, again, why Jamaica? It's because of the people. They're just the most kind, humble, laid back people. And where else would you better want to spend your vacation than someplace where the people are very laid back? Because that's the whole reason you're there, is to relax. So go where the people are laid back, and there you go. It's perfect recipe, or perfect storm. So the resort that I prefer to stay at is couples. Now, this podcast is in no way connected with couples, paid for by couples, or do they have any influence on what I'm going to say. I just have been there so many times that I'm just going to share my experience with you and tell you why I prefer to go to couples. For one, it's not a mega resort. It is basically family owned. So that part I like. I feel like more of the money that I spend there goes back to the people of the island. And again, that's kind of what I like. I have met the owner of Couples Resorts a few years ago, and I think that's kind of when I really fell in love with couples. They are what they consider themselves an ultra all-inclusive. Now you're like, what's ultra? So, when the whole all-inclusive game started, it left some of the big guys standing on the sideline going, well, we could be all-inclusive. No, you can't. No, you can't. And they've tried. Here's a breakfast coupon. Here's a lunch coupon. that's not all inclusive. Look up the word all. All means everything. It means total package. So because some of the resorts started calling themselves all inclusive when they are not, a couple stepped it up and said, you know what? We're ultra inclusive. And if you look at their, and here's a challenge for you. Go to the couple's website and write down all the things that they offer. And I mean everything. And then find any other resort in Jamaica that offers even remotely the amount of same things for free that's included. Uh, so you'll find out real quick that you don't. That's why I always go back to couples. I have tried several times, but like, you know what? Let's try something different. Let's try to go here, go there, and try this. And I start looking at the list of what they offer, and I'm like, I don't want to. I want where everything is included. And couples includes everything. Each property has multiple restaurants. They have multiple pools. All the water sports are included. Notice I said the word all. Scuba diving. Oh, I don't know how to scuba dive. Well, not a problem. They will teach you. They will get you resort certified, and you can go scuba diving as many times as you want. You can go snorkeling. You can go on a catamaran cruise. You can go, if it's in or on or under the water, they offer it, and it's all included. The hydro bikes, just be careful and don't fall off of it. So, it's just everything is included, all your meals, all your snacks. You never can go without food during the day. There's not like set meal times. You just go eat whenever we feel hungry. All the liquor's included. And a word of caution here. So if you've never been to Jamaica, and I see this happen so many times, and it's actually very sad, you save all year long and you book your trip to get off work and you go for your 7 days or 8 days or whatever you book. And you get there and you're so excited to let loose and everything's included. So you don't put on enough sunscreen because it's hot, and you drink too much alcohol. And the next day you are bright cherry red and can't move because you're sunburnt from head to toe, and you're hung over in a way that you've never experienced, and it ruins 2 or 3 days of your vacation. That is no fun. So I just give you a word of caution to make sure that you use plenty of sunscreen and just kind of, keep it kind of, and things in moderation, as they say. Um, but I never want to see somebody ruin their vacation, because we only get so many days of vacation in our life. If you compare how many days of vacation you get to the amount of work days you get, I promise you it's not balanced. That statement I will stand by. So you got all these things. They offer golf. They offer tennis. I just keep thinking of things that they offer. But like I said, go to their website and your mind will just boggle at how much stuff that they offer. It's just so cool to me. But so there's four, like I said, there's 4 resorts. And I'm going to give you the differences, in my opinion, of what each resort is like. So you see a lot of different travel channels and stuff, and they talk about the resort, but one of the things that always leaves people wondering, and then I see people posting, well, I didn't know that this resort didn't have nightlife. I didn't know that this resort, did. So I'm going to give you a breakdown of what each resort is like. So you have Swept Away, which is in the Grill. That is the smallest of the 4 resorts, and it's kind of like a little boutique resort. It's more popular with the people on anniversaries, honeymoons, weddings. It's the romantic. Not that all of them aren't, but it's the romance resort, as affectionately as it's called. So the crowd, as far as age wise, is usually kind of mixed, because you get a lot of people, getting married. So there's a lot of young crowd, but then there's people celebrating their anniversaries there because they got married there. So it's a pretty diverse crowd. But it does still offer all the same things that the other ones do, even though it's smaller. So then you have Couples in the Grill, and it's just down the street, and it does have more of a little bit of a nightlife. Their entertainment gang there does an absolute knockout job on providing different game shows, and you will laugh until your sides hurt. But they do a really good job and have a pretty good nightlife. Now, it's not a frat party kind of college thing going on. It's not like that. It's just they have a little bit more nightlife. There are still things going on past 10 o'clock. And the reason I say that because this next resort, the one that we prefer, is called Couples Tower Isle. Now, what's really cool about this resort, one, is it's located in Ocho Rios, and it is an old 50s Hollywood favorite resort that's been converted. And so it is an older resort, but in my opinion, it's been kept up, I think, the best it can be from being in the 50s and being battered by weather on an island. Uh, but it's a very nice resort. They have a lot of restaurants, all the way to white tablecloth to buffet to whatever. So if you want to dress to the nines in a tuxedo, a top hat, and a cane, and go to dinner one night, knock yourself out. If you want to go to the buffet in your swim trunks, again, knock yourself out. It's your vacation. You can do whatever you want because it's all inclusive and you're on your own schedule. And that's one of the things that I love about all-inclusive resorts. That's my biggest difference for me, my pro and con between cruises and all-inclusive resort is that when I go onto a cruise ship, and I've been on a bunch of them, but the first thing I get when I get in my stateroom is I have a schedule. When to get off the boat, when to get on the boat, when to go eat dinner, when to do this, when to do that. I have schedules all the time at work and in life. I don't want to go on vacation, have a schedule. But some people are okay with that. On an all-inclusive resort, I make my own schedule. And it's usually when I wake up, whenever, and I go eat breakfast. And then it's to the pool or it's to an excursion or whatever we have planned for that day. So, but it's my schedule. And it can be as little as I could possibly do, or it can be as much as I can possibly cram in that day. So, but that's kind of the differences between those resorts. And then you have Sans Souci, the fourth of the resorts. Now, this is the biggest of the four. It's in Ocho Rios. It's just down the street from Couples Tower Isle. It is very spread out, and I cannot say that loud enough. There are stairs everywhere. I don't care where you're going on the resort, you're going to go upstairs. If you want to go downstairs, you will still go upstairs. And that's just kind of a running joke, but there are a lot of stairs. It is spread out. It is a lot of walking. So if that's going to be an issue for you in any kind of way, just keep that in mind because there is so much walking at Sans Souci. But it's a really nice resort. It's big. They got a lot of restaurants. They got a big beach. They've got ginormous pools, swim-up bars, etc. But it's a really nice resort. I do like that resort. I've been multiple times, but I just for some reason just seem to keep going back to Couples Tower Isle. But that's the differences between the four resorts. When it comes to the sand and the beaches, now understand. I like the beaches in Jamaica, but understand that it's not going to be the bright, white, shiny sand that you see in Cozumel or, Cancun, different places like that. But it is clean and, they do have nice beaches. It's just if you're going to compare it to something like that, that's what you're going to get. And some people see the beaches and they're like, hey, it's just not white. Okay, so if you compare it to that, no, it's not. But it's still a white sand beach. If you compare it to something like Galveston, well, then it's a pristine beach. I'm not going there. So the last part of this episode, I want to share with you some of my favorite memories of all of my trips to Jamaica, some things that really stand out to me. And there were so many, and it was hard to nail it down to just a few. And one of the ones, and this is actually in one of my favorite memories, and it's learning the language. Now, they speak English fluently, so you don't have to learn the language. But their language over there is patois, Patois. You can watch all kind of YouTube videos and learn how to speak some of it. And the people of Jamaica, they absolutely love it when you learn the language. Now, everybody knows the obligatory, yeah, man, everything, Irie, yada, 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 things like that. But you can still learn other phrases like wagwan, which is what's going on, and things like that. And they get a big kick out of when people do take the time to learn some of the language. It is very fast spoken, and so my brain does not keep up with that. But that's another story for another day. So on our last trip to Jamaica, I've always had an experience of just phenomenal weather. But this last trip, we got to experience a hurricane. And oh, what a hurricane. Now, we met some friends over the last few years, and we have become at the resort, and we have become lifelong friends. And so the last few years, we have always tried to coordinate our travel where we all are there the same week. And it is an absolute blast. And when I tell you that we had more fun after the hurricane than before is an understatement. It was just an element that just added to our trip, and everybody had an absolute blast. Even through the hardships of we didn't have power, there was a lot of services that weren't offered because of no power across the island. I mean, it was just a disaster. But the staff of couples went so far above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that our vacation was not interrupted. We got up the next morning, and the GM was on the beach with a rake in her hand for hours, raking the debris off the beach so that we could enjoy our vacation. If that's not a humble people, I don't know what is. We said, well, that's their job. No, not really, because they could say, well, hey, the beach is, all trashed right now. You're going to have to wait until we get it cleaned up. But I've never seen cleanup so quick in my life from the smaller crew. It was absolutely impressive. And my hat goes off not only to couples as a resort, but to the people of Jamaica for going so far above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that our vacation was not completely ruined. It got to the point we were being served meals in a hallway, and they were using the sterno heat to keep the food warm. They just really got creative with how to take care of us, and they did a phenomenal job of it. We had people back home, their message, oh, be careful, stay inside, stay safe. We're not staying inside. We're outside. We're in the pool. We're having the time of our lives. It was the biggest joke to us, everybody being concerned. Not that we didn't appreciate people being concerned for us. We were just having too big of a time out in the pool and living it up. And, it's, because I'm sure back home they're seeing the news. They're like, oh my God, a hurricane hit, and they're out in the pool. And what's wrong with these people? Well, you just have to travel with us to find out. So somewhere along the lines, and maybe it was just from the heat, it became a running joke that I wanted to be a pirate, and I'm still okay with that. But I just don't have the boat for it. So, and there is a video of what I'm about to tell you, and I will, against my better judgment, post it on our social media for your enjoyment. And just so that you know, I'm not making this up. And you're going to learn as I go through more and more episodes, even without pictorial proof, you're going to be like, no, I know him. I know that had to happen. There was a shot that they make over there, and it's overproof rum, blue curacao, and lime juice. And they call it Windex because if you drink enough of them, it will wipe your memory. So I did 12 of these shots simultaneously in a very few seconds, as you will see in the video. And you do not want to miss that. It is the highlight of this podcast, I assure you. So I did those shots, and so then they combined the name, and then I became known as Captain 12 Shot. So the only thing I'll say about this is, people who live in glass houses shouldn't change clothes in the living room. That's all I'm going to say. Take that for how you will, but that's just where I'm at with it. But one of my other, a couple of more memories I want to share with you is over in the grill. The beach is open because it's 9 Mile Beach. And so there's vendors walking up and down the beach. And some people like it and some people don't. Usually, just no, I'm not interested, and they will go along their merry way. But this particular day, there was a guy that had his scuba gear with him in a small metal box, and he was selling lobster for lunch. And he would put on his scuba gear, go out into the water, grab a couple lobsters, come back, cook them on that little metal box, and serve them to you on a paper plate right there at your beach chair on the beach. Ladies and gentlemen, until you've had that experience, you just have not lived, I assure you. Was there sand in my lobster? I don't know. There might have been. I didn't care. I was living it up on the beach having lobster. That was a great day. Um, the only thing that would have made it better was to add a couple strips of bacon, but that's okay. So the last thing I'll share with you is if you do go to Couples Tower Isle, or if you have been, there in the piano bar is a gentleman that plays the piano, and his name is Craygon, Craygon. You can look him up on Facebook, and I think he's on YouTube as well. And he is an absolute one-man show. He will have you laughing until your sides explode. The man can play the piano, he can sing, he can tell jokes. He's just a one-man show, and he makes the night go by. I assure you. But if you do run into him, tell him I said hello. He and I have become good friends over the years, and he's an absolutely great person to get to know. Uh, you know, Other than that, that's what I have for today's episode on Jamaica. I hope you have enjoyed listening to it as much as I had fun making these memories and putting myself in the spotlight and some of my faux pas. But I look forward to seeing you again next week, Tuesday at 9 a.m., and we will take another trip. But until then, please follow us on our social media. I'm sorry, got tongue tied there. But on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, I put in parentheses because TikTok, they're still having some issues. So when they get their stuff worked out, we'll go back to posting on TikTok. But right now, Facebook and Instagram is our main place where we're posting pictures from the different trips that we talk about on the podcast. So follow, comment, share. If you have any comments, suggestions, or if you've been to Jamaica, you had an experience, good, bad, or ugly, you know what? Share it with me. I'd be glad to hear it. I'd be glad to see it. I always welcome every single opinion. And I promise you, I will do my very level best to respond to each and every one. Somebody asked me the other day, what length would you go to for one of your listeners? I said, look, I'd fight a bear for them. And they're like a grizzly bear or polar bear? I said, no, a gummy bear, but at least I would win. But anyway, that's another story for another day. And with that, that is it. Don't forget to caffeinate and conquer. Have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.